Well, copper prices have been on a roller coaster ride, but 2025 is already shaping up to be another intriguing year, with the incoming Trump administration reportedly considering a gradual approach to trade tariffs and China ramping up stimulus measures to counteract economic headwinds. Copper has risen by 4% this year. To unpack the complexities of the market, we're joined by journalist Frik Els, whose recent opinion piece explored the highs and lows of copper markets in 2024. Frik, your opinion piece delves into the volatility of copper markets in 2024. Do you see any signs that this year will be more stable, or are we in for another wild ride?
It looks like we're in for another wild ride. Copper is shot up again in the opening weeks of 2025, and you can thank the tariffs for that. So in 2024, there was a kind of a disconnect between U.S. markets and the London market, and that's happening again now. Recently, the difference in prices, the arbitrage, was over $500 per ton, because traders are positioning themselves to be paying much more for copper because of tariffs. So they kind of want to front load the buying of copper before the tariffs kick in, which seem to be more and more inevitable.
Talk to me a little bit about this sort of new posture now, the gradual implementation of the trade tariffs. I mean, has that gradual approach been welcomed by markets? How do you think that approach by Trump will influence copper's performance, at least in the short term?
Yeah, it's difficult to say. There's just so much uncertainty still. It definitely makes it easier if you can have a kind of a timetable to adjust what is happening, but it's there's still so much up in the air. Chile supplies almost 3/4 of the US's copper. Canada is at around 15%, and Mexico even less. So who knows if Chile is going to be slapped with 25% or less or more. It is a friendly country, but all of those things would have to be sorted out, in negotiations, I would imagine.
Frik, you've highlighted in your piece China's economic decisions having this ripple through the copper markets. I mean, with their latest stimulus measures that we've seen, do you think they can offset the impact of a housing downturn and slower growth? What's your take?
It's definitely going to help, but I do think those that think we're going back to kind of the heydays of the Chinese super cycle, I just don't think it's going to happen. Copper is also exposed to the construction market and the real estate market in China, especially with completions. But I don't think the stimulus is enough there it'll make a difference, but it's not going to be enough that it's a sustained demand increase. But yes, everything helps at this point.
And then, you look at the broader macroeconomic, climates globally as we move beyond copper. How prepared is the U.S. in particular to ramp up domestic production of critical minerals? I mean, I'm talking about gallium and graphite, especially given China's current dominance in these markets. What's your take?
Yeah, well, the irony is that shortly after the gallium and germanium ban came in, Rio Tinto announced that they are adding a circuit to their aluminum refinery in Quebec to supply that. But now that germanium and gallium is going to be, probably subject to 25% tariffs. So it's kind of one step forward, two steps back when it comes to critical minerals. And decoupling from China is a decade, if not a multi-decade undertaking. If you take rare earths, China was taken to the WTO tribunal in 2010 when they imposed export quotas. That's 15 years ago. Does Canada have a rare earth mine producing? No. Yes, the US has Mountain Pass, but it's also, it can't supply everything for the US markets. And when it comes to the refining side, we're still looking at China responsible for 80% plus. When it comes to magnet making, it's the same kind of situation. So in 15 years, when rare earths kind of hit the headlines, not that much has been done. I mean, there's lots of investment going in there now. There's lots of companies entering the space, and there's lots of activity, but it's not easy setting up an alternative supply chain when you're up against China and their ecosystem and their low cost, etc., etc.
Yeah, I understand that. And having said that, China's export controls on dual-use materials and graphite, I mean, that hints at future economic weaponry. How do you think the West can, counteract these measures while ensuring long-term resource security? Because it's about that, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So at the moment, the graphite, for instance, and rare earths, it's more it's restrictions, it's controls. You have to get a permit, you have to sign up. So it's not a ban, but China is keeping their powder dry. Let's say there is some high-level trade negotiations between the US and China. They'll definitely use that as a weapon, because if there's suddenly a ban on graphite, then the scramble is really on.
You add another component that makes things a bit complicated as well. There's Africa, right? You've highlighted China's increasing investment in African mining operations. What lessons can the US and its allies learn from China's approach? And how might these strategies shape, let's say, the future of resource diplomacy?
Yeah, at least, there's movement on that as well. I mean, it's first steps, but people realize now that China has basically taken control over Central Africa, or the Congo specifically. So that rail corridor that was opened, or investment was announced going to the West Coast, I mean, that's going to start making a difference. But again, it's a slow process. Cobalt, copper from the Congo, it's the fastest growing region for copper production, and most of that is going to China. So wresting that away, is not going to be an easy task.
Well, Frik, thanks very much indeed for your time. Frik Els is with the Northern Miner. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much.